it ain't dirty, my nigga, you ain't working. Throw a 30 and that 40 working like Kirby. Hold up, oh they want war, I'm finna apply some more pressure and up the score. Double back again, I'm greedy, I want more. Chopper get the rockin', knock a nigga off his porch. Hold up.
The West Side Las Vegas Historical Grammar School, a Native American school that was the first to allow blacks to attend in the 1940s, making this school a part of African American history. By the 1950s, the blacks began to increase in the city, mainly because of the opportunity of work. For this, the West Side was established. Berkeley Square, Jackson Avenue, and F Street was the center of black population. During this time, blacks relied on each other. The black dollar circulated through the community and black-owned businesses was at an all-time high. There were numerous black-owned businesses and blacks created their own shows that attracted celebrities from all over the country. It became so popular that even whites came to experience the beautiful, amazing and exciting scene that the blacks created on the West Side. It was once said that this desert will blossom like a rose. And oh, as it has blossomed. This is the untold and
Despite historic setbacks, historic West Side's legacy survives through the collective spirit of members of the past and present.
Was the expression of a symbolic experience that extended outside of the geographic.
How are you, Henry?
They call me Hen Hen.
Hen Hen.
Yeah.
You can't go months without hearing the name Hen Hen. Why
I
is that?
would bark with him, but you know, Kappas don't bark.
Before we talk about the Kappas, tell us about Hen Hen and your legacy here in West Las Vegas.
Well, my legacy started here in West Las Vegas. I'm a native, and I was born here.
Undoubtedly, the West Side's reputation often precedes its reality, and members of the present and former often must reiterate one idea.
This is the untold and very unknown side of Sin City, the urban side, the ghetto. The side where blacks was forced to stay and wasn't allowed to travel or live anywhere else in the city during the early days of development of what is now the biggest tourist attraction on earth. In this series I will be giving you some history on the urban side of Las Vegas. A deep history of racism. A side cut off from the rest of society. Red line to show the boundaries in which minorities couldn't live. The West Side, a side controlled and ran by the gangs for The West Side, a side controlled and ran by the gangs formed during segregation. A part of town where you only seen blacks. Making West Las Vegas a southern city. Everyone knew everyone. This way of living created the biggest minority culture in Las Vegas.
An all-white jury acquitted 4 white police officers of assault in the videotaped beating of black motorist Rodney King.
Ray Charles, who can't see, could see that this is something that's
expected there would have been a civil unrest. The rioting began about 5 o'clock Pacific time, and it went on through the night. The next day here in Las Vegas, we started to see some type of disturbance.
In West Las Vegas, it became very personal.
Their goal was to get downtown, and from downtown make their way to the Strip. We were able to.
The West Las Vegas riots were in the shadow of the larger conflict and are nearly forgotten in history. On April 29, 1992, the same day of the King verdict and the start of the riots in Los Angeles, the city of Las Vegas was initially peaceful. Disturbances, however, began in West Las Vegas the next day. On April 30, Black residents of the West Side began to loot and burn stores, and gun battles occurred at major intersections between rioters and police. The conflict was touched off after protesters attempted a peaceful march down Fremont Street. As others joined the march, they began to engage in violence. The worst damage occurred around the Nucleus Plaza, which was home of the offices of the local NAACP and a number of Black-owned businesses. Looters smashed windows and stores at the mall, and some threw Molotov cocktails which ignited fires. Eventually, rioters destroyed the entire strip mall located at Martin Luther King Boulevard and Owens Avenue.
I own this, and they have taken everything that I own. Now I have to start over again. I have to figure out how I'm a single parent. How am I going to pay my bills?
Fire crews and ambulances were escorted by police into the riot areas to battle blazes and carry out the injured, but had to retreat due to gunfire. Some 90 blazes were set, which included both buildings and cars. 24 people were injured during the riot, which briefly spread to North Las Vegas. This was Las Vegas' first look at how massive the blacks had grown and how much force was needed to keep them from destroying the entire city. Unfortunately, they destroyed what all they had, and for that the West Side was never the same. Gun sales increased after this historical time in African American history. Now I will get into the red team. Without getting into deep detail of each set, I will give you a glimpse into the Woot culture. Let's get it. The West Side of Las Vegas is home to majority Bloods. There may be more Crips gangs in Las Vegas, but you wouldn't know that by the West Side. Everywhere from Lake Mead to Cheyenne was Crips and other gangs that's not Blood or Crips. And everywhere from Lake Mead to Bonanza is Bloods. With exception of Bonanza Village, an area the 6-0 Crips controlled for the 90s and early 2000s. Majority of black gangs are primarily on the West Side and the North Side, better known as Northtown, while the majority of Spanish Latino gangs are on the East and North Side. But in this video we will be focusing on the historical West Side, since this area is what fueled this Las Vegas urban culture. So for that reason we will take a look at the Bloods, the Red Team, the City Hustlers. Although the 6-0s had members known for making the most money in the city, it was the Bloods who carried a reputation for getting money and having any drug you can possibly desire. They are mostly known for is their unity. Typically any Blood can receive love in any Blood neighborhood. It was all considered Woot business, and if you was a Blood then you were family. If you showed respect you was able to hustle in other Blood neighborhoods, mainly because the Bloods was linked.
You make me wanna say so. 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 You make me wanna say so.
Like most was related, this gave Bloods the freedom to move from one set to the other without conflict, long as you didn't cause a problem. On the West Side, one street connected every Blood hood. That street is called H Street. This is known as Nightmare on H. This area would put fear and caution in known gang members from some of the most violent cities in America. At the end of H was a freeway that blocked the blacks from traveling towards what is known as the Strip. Racism was evident. To this day you can see the neglect the city has toward areas majority minorities populate. The Bloods' influence is strong. Most blacks coming to Vegas and using the housing authority assistance will probably end up in a Blood neighborhood, which is what continues to make the Bloods grow. The Burgundy Square Peru, a Blood set located in Berkeley Square. making the Sixos want control of that area and had some success in doing so until they were indicted in the early 2000s, causing the Burgundy Square Peru to have full control. Right across from them are the Playboy Bloods, one of the oldest blood gangs in Vegas. They are a gang known for supplying any drug and conducting business with gangs throughout the city. Playboys have the biggest influence in the city and has the reputation for making money. They have legends from their set. Sherman Gardens annexes their neighborhood as well as the Villies. Members of this set are also the leaders of cliques such as Full Throttle. The Wood and Jizzle gang formed a few years after a respectable member was killed. Then you have
Do a dribble low key. You ride with your team, you gon' die with your team. Nigga, we up next.
Then you have Madison Terrace, Peru. A Peru set located in the heart of the West Side. A influenced set trickled down from California. The neighborhood was torn down a while back. So members now who wasn't around then claim West Side Peru, because they didn't live in the set before the neighborhood was demolished. Members of this set also helped formed what is known as HTO, or Hustlers Taking Over, a dangerous clique created by members of Peru as well as West Coast Bloods and a Crip leader who is related to the Bloods. Like I said before, the blacks was forced to live in a certain area, so most blacks from different sets are related. This is how problems occur. Cause although you my nigga from the neighborhood, nothing comes before family. And in some cases family don't come before the set.
They hating me, but I don't give a fuck in city streets. These niggas busy, but nigga hitting the shoulder. Bench him, guys out here really fucking on the house for attention till I kill.
Then we have WCB, or West Coast Bloods, a set that also defended their hood from becoming a Crip set during when the Bloods first formed. They recruit heavily and is a very loved set to even the other Blood hoods. This is the Marble Manor Project's The Bricks. This set was the closest to the Moulin Rouge, creating a lot of activity, which may explain why the neighborhood was wanted by the Crips as well. Since
I drop a bag on the floor.
Max to yo, I'm doing big things. Soak up in the dope gangs, pull up in the coke rack. Oh, you wanna ride now? Hold on, let me pop this crown. Get up on my chirper, chirp the homie for
Since
support.
I said the Bloods are linked, I must mention a Blood gang that's not on the West, but like I said earlier, it's Whoop business, so they are family nonetheless. They are the 004 Hoodsmen, a set located in Northtown, also one of the oldest if not the oldest Blood set in Vegas. They are a known active Blood set who is considered extremely dangerous. A set with a reputation at applying pressure. They built this reputation because they are the only Blood set in the North.
With your hitters, we got Vegas on our back, yeah. Folk ganger don't bang, folk ganger don't bang, folk ganger don't bang. I'ma twist my fingers, I'ma do my thing. Every time you see me, nigga, I'ma rip my gang. Folk ganger don't bang, folk ganger don't bang.
Ganger don't bang, folk ganger don't bang.
This is just a small glimpse into the culture of the Red Team in Las Vegas. The Bloods. They are more than a gang. They are more than a neighborhood. They are family, they are a part the historical West Side, they are the fuel that drives the city. If you last this long, then do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for future content. Thank you for watching. Let's get it.
Hey,